Locally, what will the Sixers do? A lot of buzz around a couple of coaches who just parted ways with their former team. Mike D'Antoni, Billy Donovan. We've heard other names. Keith Pompey from the Philadelphia Inquirer is going to try to get us up to date on what's going on with this coaching search, who the best fit is, and so much more as we bring in the man from Pitt. Hail Pitt, man.
Oh, wow. You said Hail Pitt?
That's because I appreciate you coming on in the middle of the day here. I know you're a busy man.
Dude, I was getting ready to, say something crazy. All right. I salute you Mountaineers, man.
Us West Virginia people are fine folks. See, we have respect for our friends.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to get your opinion, number one. First off, I saw your article the other day. I don't know if you can confirm or have confirmed this yet. Are D'Antoni and Donovan coming in this week for interviews?
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. I'm trying to get it. I'm trying to confirm it. Again, the one guy told me it was the coming days. He said it could be as early as, yesterday. But again, I'm trying to get all that, confirmed. The thing is, a lot of people were thinking that their interviews were going to be at the practice facility. But if they're, when they're meeting people right now, it's not going to be in Camden at the practice facility. It's going to be at a different site. But, yeah, these two guys are, the plan was to interview them this week. That was the plan.
Okay, Mike D'Antoni. So many people are wondering why he would be a fit. And as you wrote yesterday, that it's essentially his job if he wants it. Like, it's almost like the Sixers would prefer to hire him. Now, I read, the players liked him when he was here before. Obviously, he's had a lot of success. But do you find him to be the best fit for this roster?
It's a tough situation, because I think, like you said, when he was here before, like if you look at this roster right now, you'll say no. If you look at the roster. But, from what I'm hearing is the ownership group is the ones who really are enamored with him and the ones who really like him and love him. Now, the thing is, it's kind of like you look at it, you say, okay, I have Ish Smith. Ben Simmons is better than Ish Smith. I have Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid is better than Nerlens Noel. And D'Antoni made these guys look great when they were in his offense. The only difference is that Embiid and Nerlens Noel are completely different players. Completely different players. So in order for that to work, you're going to have to do a lot of tinkering. And one question you have is, yes, D'Antoni was extremely successful in Phoenix. He had some success in Houston. They didn't win the big games like people would have liked. But at the same time, he was successful. But neither one of those teams had that presence like Joel Embiid.
Right. When he had Shaq with the Suns, that pretty much ran him out of town.
Exactly. So that's the problem. Now, and the thing is, when you get in these interviews, now here's again, he's someone that the ownership group is very familiar with. You know what I mean? They saw what he did because remember, before that, I believe they were like 1-30 or something like that. Before he came. So you look at him and you say, "Wow, look at the magic he's done." And also the plan. People don't want to admit this, but the plan was if Brett Brown would have stumbled out of the gate the next year, they were going to hand the keys to D'Antoni. But he left and went to Houston before they could do that. So. You know what I mean? Like, again, you're raising great questions. I mean, making great points. It's just one of the things, again, this is what the sources are telling me. And, you read that article. I raised a lot of questions with it as well.
Now, you keep saying that the ownership group loves him, and that kind of scares me because I thought that, it's okay that the ownership loves the head coaching hiring, but after hearing Elton Brand speak, I thought maybe it would be more about what Elton Brand thinks about these coaches.
Yeah, I know that's a problem, right? But, at the end of the day, a lot of times it's the ownership group who basically makes the decisions. But I get what you're saying. That's why, me personally, I want to see what they're going to do with this front office and who they're going to hire, if they are going to make the moves that, the way that they were talking about they were going to make and how they were going to, study everything and do all this. Because if they don't, then that's telling me that the ownership group still has a heavy hand in everything. You know what I mean? But, yeah, you did raise a great point.
Yeah, I was going to say, you brought up the whole decisions on making some changes. We haven't heard any noise yet or any news about anything. Is that weird?
What they are doing secretly behind closed doors, I shouldn't say secretly, but, I spoke to some sources, and, they told me that these guys are going after a president of basketball operations now. I think that the thing is they're doing a coaching search. They're also going after, a president of BOps. So, we'll see. But, yeah, like you said, it was one of those things that typically when someone is about to go and when you're done with them, even though their contract doesn't expire until a couple months, you typically tell that person, like, hey, it's been great. It didn't work out. You're going to get paid until the end of your contract. But from what I'm hearing, these two guys these guys are still around, and they haven't, decided their fate yet. So in a way, that's a little alarming. It makes you think that maybe we were getting some lip service, and at the end of the day, they may decide to keep them, or who knows, they may just have them working through their contract. But typically, they would have been gone by now.
Keith Pompey, Philadelphia Inquirer, Sixers beat writer. Early in the process, it seemed that Ty Lue was the clear favorite. Then new guys emerged. Billy Donovan decided to part ways. We heard Mike D'Antoni. We discussed him. Is Lue no longer the lead apple in their eye?
Nah, he's not. He's not. That's one thing the source said. He's no longer the front runner. It's one of those things where, after, right now is D'Antoni, from what people are telling me, and it could be one of those things where, they do these interviews, then next thing you know, they interview Lue. Now Lue is available. He's, one of these guys, they just got out of the bubble. He's going to take a couple of days. Sixers probably reached out to him if they haven't reached out to him already, and then they'll take it from there and do the interviews. And if he could reemerge as the front runner after, all said and done. But from what I'm hearing, he's no longer the front runner. No.
So, obviously you've got your ear to everything, Keith. Do you think they want an established retread kind of guy, or would they go off the grid like a Steve Nash or maybe an assistant coach that wouldn't excite the fan base as much, knowing what the fan base just went through, where, look, like Brett or not, by the end, I think everybody was, it was like Andy Reid. Whether you liked him or not, you were ready to move on. So do you think the front office and the ownership group feels like they have to get an exciting name here?
You know what? I think the pressure that's under the Sixers is completely different than with the Brooklyn Nets. Like, again, I know the Brooklyn Nets, you can argue that, the Brooklyn Nets, well, their pair is better than the Sixers pair. Talking about KD and Kyrie, right? They made that decision. Like, the players, that was the guy who they selected. But at the same time, Jacques Vaughn is a good up-and-coming coach. He was a former head coach, good X and O's. They respect him. So the players made that decision, and they'll keep Jacques Vaughn. Even though they're better players, I don't think that their situation is as critical as the Sixers. And what I mean by that is it's like, they told us they were built for the playoffs, right? Right now, if you go that route, you have to be 100% sure that person can get you deep in the playoffs. Because if not, it's going to you mean to tell me you turned down this person for that one? It's going to be sort of like free agency, where everyone was saying, you mean to tell me y'all let Jimmy Butler walk? So you have to be 100% sure. Now, again, in an ideal situation, let's say if there is an up-and-comer, but he has a bona fide former head coach as his lead assistant, maybe. But I think what the Sixers need now is they need a coach who has a championship pedigree, a guy who's known for going deep in the playoffs and winning big games. That's what they need. You really can't. This isn't the time to say, hey, I see this college guy. I want to give him a chance. I think the time is to go. Let's get an established coach and try to get it, a veteran coach.
A word we heard all off season long here was accountability. Do you think that D'Antoni can provide that part of coaching?
That's a good question. All I know about D'Antoni is from what I saw with him, when he was a assistant coach here. And I will tell you the players loved him. I would tell you that. Now, again, Ben Simmons wasn't on that roster. Joel Embiid was hurt, but a lot of the guys in the locker room respected him. And I think that right now, when we talk about accountability, I'm going to give you a good example. So you have the Chicago Bulls. We're just going to say their last two coaches. And I'm sorry, I'm not naming names, and I could, but it's just, it's just rush. So the first coach was like a player's coach to a point to where people got over on him, right? They were just basically like, oh, whatever. The second coach was real like military type guy, real strict. And then next thing you know, the players start complaining to the ownership group and to the general manager and all this other stuff. Well, next thing you know, the guy gets fired. So what they're saying is a lot of times you can't go from one extreme to the other. So as far as what it is you want to get a coach who the guys can believe in, a coach who they respect. You know what I mean? And like a D'Antoni could be a guy that they respect. A Tyronn Lue could be a guy that they respect based off of, like, they're very familiar with him. They know who the other players he coached. They know players he played with. So those are the things I think that's really the Sixers have to go with. Now, again, I'm not saying, like, to be a pushover, but what I'm saying is if you think that you're going to get a guy there saying, no cell phones, be quiet, do this, nah, it's not going to work with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons.
It'll be like, I hope the ownership group doesn't feel like, hey, if we bring Mike D'Antoni in here, all of a sudden Ben Simmons is just going to start being James Harden and jacking 10 threes a game. Like, I hope they're not going, thinking that he has that kind of power over Ben Simmons, right?
Nah, he won't. But here's the one thing that really he doesn't. Here's the thing that people need to think about. As much as we hated seeing the Sixers shooting threes, right? Oh, my gosh, they shot 35, 40 threes, right? So if you look at it, the offense that they're running, not the offense they ran because they didn't have the same personnel, but the Sixers they didn't shoot as many, but the Sixers shot a lot of three-pointers. And when you have a guy like D'Antoni, he likes for his guys to shoot a lot of three-pointers. So while we keep saying
45, he shot 45 a night.
Yeah, 45. So while we keep saying to ourselves, like, nah, this isn't going to work, but then they're looking at it, yeah, this is a guy who shoots threes at the same way we like shooting threes. Does it make a little sense to you?
I mean, yeah, if I had better three-point shooting, I got none, right?
I got you. Yeah, I'm with you with that one, but I'm just throwing it out there.
I got none. Well, I'm just, is the ownership group so frustrated with Ben that they think bringing in a guy like D'Antoni might be the guy that can unlock him to even just attempt 2 or 3 a night? That's all.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that one.
Right.
I mean, I think maybe, D'Antoni does have, the resume. He has, like, more cachet than a Brett Brown would. And if he says something, let's face it, D'Antoni, he coached Nash. He coached James Harden. He coached all these guys who are, like, Hall of Fame type players. So if he says to Ben, like, hey, you know what, this is what we did with this player, and look at the results. You know what I mean? It could sway him a little bit more so than, Brett Brown.
Well, he got 11 points a game out of Chris Duhon, so there's something there too, right?
Yeah.
Keith Pompey covers the 76ers for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Has been doing great reporting on the Sixers' next coach, and keep your eye on that. And, of course, we will do the same. And he, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Have a good weekend, pal.
Thank you, man. Go Mountaineers, brother.
Thank you.
Mountaineers.
All right. You see what I did there? I got him to do it. That was my plan.
Brainwashed him a little bit, huh?
He's a great man. Keith Pompey, everybody. Follow him at Pompey on Sixers.